been somewhat quiet because there's a lot of you. This tour is sponsored by the Town Meeting Coordinating Committee. Peggy, do you want to say a word or two?
There's a lot to review before you come to town meetings, so
there's a lot to review before you come to town meeting. Lights and loud, Peggy.
Try to go to a precinct meeting. There still are.
Try to go to a precinct meeting.
Anyone.
You can go to any one, not just the one in your precinct. Anyone.
And new members should try very hard to come to the orientation at 6 o'clock before town meeting begins. We're going to meet in the home economics room of the middle school, which is across the hall from the principal's office, and we'll have signs.
Okay. Raise your hand if you didn't hear that. Okay. There's going to be an orientation for new members. It's going to be on what date?
May 6th.
May 6th. What time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. So you'll look for information in your town meeting packet, and we hope you can come. All right. Anything else? Okay. Yes, Mary.
Isn't this the bus for the speaker system?
No. It's not. Okay. Any other questions? The good thing is I have a nice loud voice. Yes. Question.
How do you know
It's in your town meeting packet. There is a chart with a schedule of all precinct meetings, and everything you get in your packet is also online on the town meeting website of the town's website. Okay? There's any other questions as we're going? Okay, so this is a great chance to get to know your neighbors, introduce yourself if you don't know the people in front and behind you, and the good news is it's a beautiful day. And everyone's got a seat. Every single seat is filled. Okay, this is Olympia Drive. Olympia Drive is on here for two reasons. One is for street acceptance. When a street is ready to be turned over to the town for plowing and things like that, then we do a street acceptance. That's the first stop. The next stop straight ahead is to the fraternities. The next stop has to do with rezoning affecting the fraternity residence, the RF zoning district. That district already exists, but what the article, which is Article 34, would do would be to allow for waiver on the limits of building and lot coverage, maximum floors and height, in consideration of existing buildings and landscapes in the surrounding area. The RF zone, it already exists. This is just adding the ability to modify some of the limitations that the permitting board would then have. And by the way, as we're going through this tour, if someone has additional information they'd like to contribute, or if they have a question, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. At some point, I may need to cut off questions just because of time. Mary, yes.
I just wanted to say that I'll be passing around photos and maps. There is one coming around now that shows the residential fraternity zones here and on North Pleasant Street at Article 34.
Look to your right. These are the fraternities that would be subject to this zoning. It's right on the other side of this building. You see there, I believe they have the Greek letters. Okay, and we're going to do a turnaround in this section. And this is not on the current town meeting warrant, but just in case you're wondering what this is, those of you who are old town meeting members already know, this is the Olympia Oaks project that is going to be for 42 units of affordable rental housing, suitable for families with more than 75% units containing 2 or more bedrooms, and it's for residents whose income is below 60% of the area median income. And in the past, town meeting has appropriated $250,000 on one occasion and different amounts of money in other years to go towards this project. So it's little by little, it's getting there. She's been a town meeting member for a long time, and she's been a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and she's with the League. And
that's fine, that's good. What we're going to talk about, what we're going to see is what the land that Article 43, which is a petition article to acquire a conservation restriction on this block of land, which we're going to circle around on all the streets that edge it. And so we're asking, so that's what you're going to get to see. And we're asking, it's 153, give or take, acres, contiguous woodland, and we're asking for $1.2 million subject to grants and receipts of gifts and bequests to at least 70% of the appropriation. So that means the town contribution would be about 30% of it.
And Barbara, what's the organization that has been working on this?
Well, there's a community, the whole community. This is Cushman Village, which you see around you, and we're going to go left through the street. We'll pass the Cushman, the nursery school, and please notice the streets that exist in this village, and think about the traffic, because the other proposal for this land is to put 191 units on it. There's a proposal right now, and for specifically for housing university students. So
This is called the retreat.
it's called the retreat, and that's why it says stop the retreat, because beat the retreat was already taken, because the retreat is the plan that this company that would develop this has, mostly in the South, and like other places, they name developments, like the bird
Amherst
song, or
Woods,
not the bird song, I mean the woodpecker or something, I don't know.
So another thing, Barbara, did I understand your group has a website if people want to learn more?
Yes, there is a website. It's called Save Historic Cushman.
And who's put forward this article?
Who what?
Who's putting forward the article?
This was a petition article by Save Historic Cushman, the group. The North Amherst neighbors, they called themselves also, before we got organized. One of the situations with this article is that this land has been under Chapter 61, which is forest land protection, and all of a sudden the current owners have applied to the town to withdraw it from forest protection so that they can sell it. And that's a complicated thing, but essentially it gives the town, once their application is correct, it gives the town 120 days for right of first refusal, which means the town would have to buy it for the full amount that is in the buy-sell agreement between the current owner and the purchaser.
Question from Janet.
Some confusion back here about who the current owner is. Could you tell us that, please?
Well, it's W.D. Coles, and it's Inc., which is an Amherst entity, and Cinda Jones is the president or whatever. She runs the company. So.
Any other questions? We're going to circle the area. Yes.
Who are the petitioners? Is there any names?
Petitioners are Save Historic
No,
Cushman.
but any individuals? I mean, who is that?
Pardon me?
Who is Save the Cushman?
Oh, there are a whole bunch of all the people who live here. People who live on Flat Hills Road, Market Hill Road, Henry Street, all the way down Northeast Street. It stretched Cushman Center itself. People who consider themselves part of Cushman. It goes down East Pleasant as well, down Pine Street, at least as far as State. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to be quick with questions. There was a question here and a question back there. Tell us your name, please, so we know.
Kathy, I'm in precinct 3, Fisher Street. How many years has it been in 61A?
Question is, how many years has this land been in 61A?
It's 61, but I don't know. It's been a long time because it's been forested. I've lived here for many years, over 40, and it's been harvested at least 3 times.
Okay, we're going to go to the
And
next
it's recently been
Okay,
harvested.
the next
Sorry,
question is there some sort of a plan or layout that shows access to the land that's being...
Yes, so we're going to point that out.
We're going to loop around and she'll point to the accesses as we drive by.
There has to be at least 2 entrances. One of their thoughts was to go straight through here, which is the ice house, which formerly was on Puffer's Pond, so that's an
So it's
historic
been
building.
it was moved over here?
Well, they may not be able to purchase it. It depends. And another entrance is up by the water treatment plant, which we purchased the land for from Coles, and as a part of that agreement was to drive a spur into this property. Please note as you go by the topography. It is a very steep spot, and it gets steeper as you go up. There's a plateau above here, and also what runs through it is there's a right-of-way for the transmission line, so they can't build under that, but they have to go up high.
I'm gonna have to, one more question and then we're gonna roll.
Sorry, question, how many students are going to be housed there and how many parking spaces?
We don't, the plan has not been.
Question is, how many students, how many parking spaces?
The official plan has not been submitted, but they want to build 191 dwelling units, separate individual dwelling units, that would house at least 4 students. There'll be 4 rooms, each with its own bathroom, and they're going to lease to individual students in these homes.
So that's about 700.
Yeah, 600, 700, depending whether they're 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, whatever. We don't know. Nobody knows because they have not submitted a plan.
Okay, so how would this be paid for, Barbara?
How would the article be paid for?
Yes, how would the money to buy it be paid for?
Okay, what we've suggested is by going for grants from state agencies, federal agencies, and also a public subscription, partially from individuals within the town, and also some percentage of money from, hopefully from the CPA, amongst other things.
Okay, all right, we're gonna roll, and I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go because we have so many articles.
Is this on the move?
Question, what is CPA? CPA stands for the Community Preservation Act, and it is a state law that allows towns to have a
Notice the village
surcharge
effect.
on property taxes of between 1% and 3%.
This is
We have
school,
1.5.
where little children go to school here. That's preschool.
Excuse me, can I ask you something? Was the spur purchased by the town?
No,
the land from here was bought by the town because of the water treatment
That's
plant.
right.
As part of that, they provided a spur to log the land, or just for any reason?
Future development. So there could be an entrance. There will be an entrance.
Near the water treatment plant?
Please note, I think we paid over $1 million just to blast this entrance through the bedrock. There's a lot of bedrock. What the proposal is to purchase the conservation restriction, which means that it's essentially like they can only use the land for other purposes, like logging it.
So the proposal is to purchase a conservation restriction, which means the land would not be able to be developed.
Now look, right behind all of these places is where the land starts. It goes in there. Oh, we just passed the other access.
Oh, it goes the other way.
There was another access onto Flat Hills Road.
This road?
Yeah, onto this road, if they wish they can have it, because they own frontage. So it goes down behind there. And then it stops because other people own land at this end of the block.
Oh, okay.
You get a sense of the size of the property in a way by going around it the way we have.
Okay, thank you so much, Barbara. We're now going down Pine Street. We're not going to stop, but I want to tell you this street is very bumpy. The good news is it's going, I'm sorry, if you could, listen, man. Thank you. So we're going down Pine Street, and there's going to be $1 million spent for a water system improvement and $1 million for a sewer system improvement on this road. So part of why they're not fixing the road is because it's going to get all dug up again, and that would be bonded out. And historically, in recent years, the town applied for grants for state and federal governments to complete this work, but the grants haven't been forthcoming. So given the condition of the street, financing the upgrade with a low interest debt will accelerate the process economically. And the bond payments have been calculated in the existing water and sewer rate structure. So no rate increases will be resulting from this. So does anybody have any questions?
Behind you, Carol.
Thank you. Behind me. Yes.
How about the sidewalks? There's the other sidewalk.
The question is, are they going to create sidewalks? I don't know. Does anyone know the answer to that question?
Yes.
Will there be sidewalks? We don't know. Okay, so Preservation Act Committee. And
Hello, everyone. The following is the list of needs and justifications as to what is needed at the Mill River Pool that potentially could be funded by the CPAC funding. Shade structures, there could be two. There's currently no shade at the middle of our pool at all, or at the waiting pool over there. There's no shade structures. Skin cancer rates in New England are at all-time high. Residents continually ask us to provide shade structures to protect themselves and their children. We have purchased several low-cost alternatives to permanent shade structures, but they have not proven to be a long-term solution. Permanent shade structures need to be purchased so that we can provide protection, shelter from the sun for all our patrons. Lifeguard chairs, there could be two also. Current chairs are in very poor condition, splintering and unstable. They're very wobbly, and we put rug on them to cover up all the, because it's just splintering like crazy. They're the original chairs that were installed when the pool was constructed in 1974. Their poor condition is presenting a serious safety issue to our employees. Fencing. Except for a section of the fencing on the north side of the pool that was replaced several years ago, the rest of the fencing around the perimeter of the pool is in very poor condition. It needs to be replaced. It's rusty and it's falling apart, and people pull on it and try to climb on it, and they try to cut it, and so sometimes there's sharp edges where people can get cut on. There's also a water line repair needed. There's a serious leak in the water line that's located here, right about near the gate over here. That runs the pool, the water to the pool house, the filter room over here, and also it runs out to the field. So there's like a couple bubblers, I think one bubbler out there that isn't able to use at all, because when we turn on the water, it just runs through and causes a kind of like a sinkhole. So it has to be shut off. Only when we use it, we turn it on, turn it off. And those are the four things that we could use here at the Middle River Pool.
Okay, questions for Paul? Yes, Paul.
Yeah, has it considered you for long-term solution for shade? Have they thought about at the same time planting some trees?
They did think they had mentioned about trees before. There used to be actually, you can see they ripped them up, but there were huge pine trees, and it really didn't actually do anything for the pool because the sun comes up this way and kind of goes through this way, and so there was really, it didn't do anything for the pool at all. The trees.
So will they be replaced?
I asked the same question at the Community Preservation Act Committee meeting, and there was a problem with roots as well. When you have all these kinds of water things around, the roots can wreak havoc with that.
Okay, any other questions for Paul?
Will it be replaced? No.
What will be replaced? I'm sorry, the trees?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming that they're
Not
going
for
to plant
shade.
something there to make it look better. I don't know.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
I wonder if we stop at every place and somebody pops up.
The next two stops, we're going to talk about two articles, Article 31 and 32. I did want to say that I invited everyone on the zoning subcommittee to come on this bus tour to give an introduction to these articles, and I asked them to, they couldn't come, I guess, and I asked them to invite the whole planning board. And anyway, I'm sorry we don't have anyone from the planning board or the zoning subcommittee to introduce the intent of these, but you do have memos from the planning board in your packets to talk about both of these articles. And I've summarized some of the points in the handout that you got. Janet Kella is from the organization called
Coalition of Amherst Neighbors, and also the North Amherst Village Improvement Society.
And Janet is from North Amherst, and I didn't get your bio, but you have some educational background in conservation.
For about 30 years, I worked for the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management and/or the State Energy Office in Rhode Island. So I've had a wide variety of assignments around planning, environmental programming, and
how long have you lived here?
I've been here for 4 years.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so why don't you give us an overview of this?
Sure. Okay, so what I'd like to do is pass this around. This will give you some idea of the areas in town that will have changed zoning under the new zoning. So I'll start that here. And then I've got a few others here that relate to the area where we are now. So this looks pretty nondescript, and I often think think about North Amherst as, I think about Rodney Dangerfield. I don't get no respect. But it's an amazingly rich and important area. So this shows just one aspect of that, which is the flood plains that envelop the area here that is in the commercial district, which is also slated for a big increase in density. And finally, I will do some that are right next here. This is the land right that we're looking here. It's a set of shallow lots, and they are listed as endangered or threatened or special concern habitat.
Not here.
We're going to stop right here. And we're going to actually combine the. So I'll send those around to you. You can see where it is and look at the lots.
So we're looking. Excuse me. Quick question. So it looks like looking at reducing the minimum lot size to about a third of an acre, quarter of an acre, right? And that's the same as downtown and Cottage Street.
And if we could, let's let her finish her presentation. Okay, so this is the town's main zoning package. It has 3 articles in it, Articles 31, 32, and 35. I'm going to mostly talk about 31 and 32. 31 would increase the number of units that are possible in mixed-use buildings. And it does that in a couple of ways by allowing for the first time residential units on the back part of the first floor behind the retail. And then it also increases the number of units allowed on the second and third floors from 6 to 10. So basically when you add the 2 new ones on the first floor and the 4 on the second floor, you go from 6 to 10 allowed. Article 32 does a lot more, and I want to clarify a point here. The woman toward the back cited the reduction in the lot size, which appears fairly minimal, and it's about it's a 25% reduction in lot size. However, one of the interesting things here that you need to look at is that things combine. So Article 32 combines with Article 31. And then within Article 32, the reduction in the minimum lot size combines with the reduction in the minimum lot size required for each additional apartment, and in turn require with the frontage requirements. I'll get to the setback in a minute. And so you can do the development on a smaller, narrower lot and fit more units in. One point I want to clarify that is not made clear here is the very large impact on all those places that I sent around to you here of footnote B, which adds limited business and commercial, which is what this is zoned for, to the places in town where the basic minimum lot size, the basic additional lot size for each family, and the setback are the frontage are essentially reduced to an unknown number. But what it really does is it takes something where there was a minimum and it removes that minimum. So the minimum is now gone, and sometimes you'll see places where buildings are placed very close together. That's what that would permit. But there's really, if this goes through, there will be no minimum in the limited business and commercial. And if you would like, I've got some more maps with me that will show you where some of those are. The only other thing I want to say, let me just quickly, No, well, let's take questions while you're thinking about it. Yes.
Are you or your group opposed or in favor of these changes?
We would like to see more changes that are not as intense as this.
So you're opposed to the articles as they appear?
Yeah, unless they could be changed to step at that softer zoning over less extent. Okay,
Could we perhaps be more neutral in addressing these issues then? I really am not getting information that I haven't,
I'm sorry. Everything I said to you up to this point is factual.
There was
I
a direct
not
question.
right, but
Okay. All right.
it's not.
Wait, Janet, you're giving a lot of. What I'd like to say, quiet please, I would like to invite anyone who is on one of the town boards or who wants to provide additional information that perhaps they heard at a planning board meeting. I'd like you to raise your hand, and if they're very complicated articles, even at the warrant review, I found it very hard to read the full concept. Yes, please.
No, I'm not on a planning board, but we did see these articles in substance last year at town meeting, and they were part of the form-based code proposal that town meeting couldn't swallow in whole. We all kind of agreed it looked good, but we didn't feel we could vote for it in whole. So it did not pass because zoning requires 2/3.
Right.
And so this, although it may seem complicated, our whole zoning bylaw is rather complex. This takes the zoning bylaw as it exists now and tweaks it, and it does some increased density.
Concrete examples. What we're trying to do is provide as much information.
Okay, so it takes a third floor of a building, for example. If you're building a mixed-use building, it allows you a little bit of flexibility for residential on the first floor, but it also allows a full pitched roof on the third floor, so it increases height by like some pretty small proportion, but giving the whole third floor the ability to be used for housing, which in spaces that are, whether they're downtown or our village centers or in this kind of commercial area, it would make sense to have increased density.
Just information, please. But thank you for that. So the height is increased. Also, you can see from the handout that I gave you, the lot size has decreased from 20,000 to 15,000. There's a waiver that would limit the maximum coverage. Right now, the existing coverage is 35%. The waiver would allow the permitting board to look at the context of what's around it and not require it to be 35%. I'll be right with you, just 1 second. It also, the height goes from 35 feet to 40 feet, and there's now a minimum height of 16 feet. On Article 31, there were 3 different categories that defined what was allowed in terms of density, and those 2 of those categories were eliminated. One was the total gross floor area was greater than twice the area of commercial use. Another was the total square footage was 6,000 feet. Those would be gone. And the third was that it would allow 6 dwelling units, and that's boosted up to 10 dwelling units. And also, the second part for Article 31 would say that you can't have residential dwelling units on the first floor facing the street, and also it quadruples the percent of residential dwelling units allowed on the first floor. It had said that 10% could be dwelling units on the first floor in mixed use. Now that goes up to 40%. Yes, another.
As a simple fact associated with this, dwelling units does not equal number of bodies. Dwelling units, when it was 6, some people thought that meant that all those units would therefore have to have 4 bedrooms to make it financially viable. One of the arguments put forth by the planning board is by having more actual units available, they could be 1 or 2 bedroom units, therefore still being financially viable without them being 4 bedroom units.
Okay,
so
thank
we
you.
just have to be careful of what we assume things
Okay,
mean.
thank you. I think you might have had your hand up before, and then Rolf, and then...
Mine's very quick. So the dwelling units themselves do not have any restrictions as to size, correct? No stipulation?
Based on the lot. It's all percentage of the lot.
And percentages of the lot.
Yeah, so you can't build the lot.
Right, yeah. But a single...
Okay. Did everyone hear that question or want to repeat it? Okay, Paul has a question, and then Molly, and then you, and then Molly. Yes.
Sounds like the real crux of understanding these things is what is the maximum density number of students or people that could live up
Not
here.
necessarily students.
Not as students, people that could live in this area. So what are these changes? What percentage increase does it allow, and what numbers does that correlate to? Is my question.
I put some percentages in here, and I would invite you to look at the planning board memos. I can't answer that. I'm not an expert on this, so
Someone at the planning.
Yeah, could anyone? Alyssa, Claire, anyone, if you want to answer that question?
No, I'm not going to guess.
Okay, all right. I think you are next, right?
Thank you.
And then Molly, yes.
My name is Minden. So I'm just clarification on this map. Because you said this is the areas that would be affected by these proposed zoning changes. Are we talking the yellow and the red areas, or the areas
Oh,
that
I'm
are
very
proposed?
sorry, the red areas.
The red, not the yellow, but the red areas,
And the
the
map
ones that
that
would be
was
impacted.
circulated, it's the red areas that we're talking about that would
Thank
be
you.
affected by this. Molly next.
It's a simple question: are these zoning, these articles that we're discussing, are they majority vote or 2/3?
2/3, right. So all
They
these
are
zoning
all
articles
2/3?
require
Yeah,
2/3
zoning.
majority, yes.
Always does.
Peggy, you had a question, and then we're going to have to curtail questions, so you're going to be the last one. I forgot your name, sorry.
Although we're in North Amherst right now, all of the red areas is what this is about. In other words,
Right, so it affects part of South Amherst.
it's kind of looking to the old model of like what downtown was, of businesses downstairs and apartments upstairs.
What's going around, this is a point of fact, what's going around are maps showing those areas that would be affected. So
Okay.
you can see where they are.
Last question, yes, in the back.
Red areas.
Tracy Lee.
Tracy's new to town meeting. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi. So on Article 32, is this the only area that article will affect right now?
No, the maps that are going around will show the red blocks. So there's some parts in South Amherst as well.
Village, it's village center. It's where there's already existing density.
Okay, so any other comments?
I could again answer.
We have to go, so.
Atkins Corner, Pomeroy Village, East Village Triangle Street, Downtown Depot District, West side of University Drive between Route 9 and Amity Street, Market Square, Gatehouse Village, North Amherst Village.
Okay, and they're on the map. Article 29 would impose a registration requirement for all rental properties. It would have, people would have 14 days to submit an application and hear back about whether the registration is approved. There would not be inspections of residences that are going to be rented. Rather, it would be a self-certification process where individual landlords would be responsible for making sure they're in compliance with town codes. The permits would be good for 1 year. They would be issued on July 1st. The permits would have to be posted. They would be transferable to subsequent owners if the ownership changed. The town would have the right to inspect and investigate properties for good cause and to abate any violations. There would also be a parking requirement, and people who are renting would have to submit a parking plan that would comply with all town general requirements and design standards and landscape standards of the parking and access regulations of the Amherst zoning bylaw. So that's Article 29.
Carol?
Yes.
It would not apply to all rental properties. If you have a sabbatical house and you're renting your sabbatical house for a year, it would not apply.
Thank you, that's right. And it also doesn't apply to other things that are already regulated, such as boarding houses, bed and breakfast, things of that sort. There's a petition article that's a variation of the same thing. It has some differences, though, which, did you have the handout over there? So he'll hand out on that, and I'll turn it over to Rolf. Oh, and Rolf is, let me tell you, Rolf is a town meeting member, and he is part of the, as I mentioned, the Coalition of Amherst Neighborhoods. He's also the chair of the biology department at UMass, and Rolf.
Okay, great. So a brief history of the permitting system from my point of view is last year, at last town meeting, we were told in town meeting that we would have a permitting system by this next town meeting, and kudos to the town. We now have two, in fact, articles to vote on about permitting. So the coalition formed last year with the goal of stabilizing and maintaining and actually enhancing neighborhoods for both students and year-round residents alike. So our goal is really to stabilize and maintain downtown neighborhoods, and I view that rental permitting is one of the key elements of us doing that. As Carol said, it's a fairly simple permitting system, actually very simple compared to other college towns around the country, self-inspections, and basically provides the one piece that town has not had in enforcing its bylaws, and that is an enforcement element. This ultimately could lead to revocation of a permit. That happens very, very rarely in other towns that have these permitting systems, but it is actually a sanction that does carry some weight, obviously, for landlords. And so that's why permitting has been so effective in other college towns to get these absolute landlord rental situations under control. So I'm not going to speak at any length about the town version. As you know, the town John Santi created a Safe and Healthy Neighborhood Working Group, and they spent the year creating Article 29, which is a bylaw that is similar in many ways to the Article 38 bylaw. the Coalition of Amherst Neighborhoods, we contracted with Roy Lapata, who is the planning on the planning department of Newark, Delaware, has been for 40 years. He claims, and I agree, he's the national expert on college town housing situations, and he was the mastermind in creating a permitting system there that's now been tested in court, many different levels, and it's been tried and true for a long time. So we went straight to Roy Lapata and said, what will you recommend? The coalition then put together this, we actually made it simpler in many ways than he has done in Newark to try to fit the Amherst market. So our particular bylaw is somewhat simpler than the town bylaw. And I'm going to pass around this handout, which spells out the differences. The biggest three, I think, being that the town bylaw would be for all landlords, and this 38 has an exemption for owner-occupied dwellings, because I found last year in some of my own research that owner-occupied dwellings didn't have any nuisance problems associated with them, whereas non-owner-occupied absentee landlords were the ones that were the problem in Amherst. So it's simpler that way. It's simpler because the parking plan is left to other regulations, and it's simpler. What's the third one, John? The fees. The fee schedule is different in that it's by dwelling unit, not by an entire complex. So that if you're a small operation, much lower fees in theory and slide. And so, but fees are not the big thing to get sidetracked on. The idea for us is to get a permit system involved so that when there are violations and egregious situations with absentee landlords and tenants, then there is some tool, some mechanism of town to actually enforce the bylaws that already exist.
Okay, we're going to have to jump to questions. Yes.
Is there any other town in Massachusetts that does this?
Yeah, there are many. Boston has a permitting system. There's houses on the Cape. Provincetown has a rental permitting system. It's actually
Lowell, Boston, you said, many towns.
Yeah, yes, it's definitely tried and true in Massachusetts as well.
Lisa, and then.
When you say compliance through self-certification, does that mean a landlord just has to check and say, yes, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this?
Right.
Even if they haven't. We can't, we don't regulate what they have or not.
It's on their honor. It's an honor system. It's actually, it's a legal document. So they are pledging that they have inspected and have legal living conditions and are abiding by the law. If there's then a complaint, so there's a complaint-driven inspection element. If there are complaints from the tenants or from neighbors or from any party, and then an inspection is initiated and they have found that have not been truthful in that pledge, then that will carry its own consequences. So yeah, it's an honor system. The landlords say we're abiding by the laws, basically, the bylaws of Amherst and the laws of Massachusetts.
Okay, Mindy had a question, and then Jeff, and then Claire.
So does the town...
We're cutting the stack off right there.
The town includes exceptions like for sabbatical houses. Does Article 29 include exceptions, and if so, what are they?
38 is the CAN article also has the exception for sabbatical houses. Yeah.
Why?
If someone's leaving for a year, it's a demographic here in Amherst. It's a very common process where you want to just rent your house for a year. It was thought that we want the simplest permitting system that really targets the problem in Amherst, which we view as absentee landlords, not owner-occupied or
But that's an
small-scale.
absentee landlord and a sabbatical.
It is, but it's not a commercial rental, which is another way to put it. And I would put it as commercial rentals.
You had mentioned Article 39, just to let people know. 39 is the nuisance house bylaw amendment. The nuisance law was passed in a previous town meeting. This is just tweaking it. The reason we're stopping here in particular is because the townhouse apartments complex has been the site of various parties that made the news. So, for example, I'll pass around this article from the Republican from March 11, 2013, where 2,000 people, they say, were involved in a full-scale riot, the bloody blowout, and several arrests happened. There's an article about that.
I'm sending around another article where UMass ranked 9th on the best Barney blowout in the country. It's an internet buzz. And here's why. It was a big deal here. And one of the good things was that they brought in the riot police. That's what they're trying to do.
Okay.
One last thing, I'm going to send around a sign-up list for CAN. If anyone wants to put their email on here for contacts, I'll just send this around.
Okay, we have more questions. Anyways, let's see. Who is next in order? Let's go Claire, and then Mary, and then...
Go ahead.
Actually,
I have a quick one. Just how many people live in this complex to get an idea of what it would be
I don't
for
know.
the other?
Good question. Anyone know how many people live here? I don't know. Claire.
There are a few hundred units. So I'm just concerned, and I wondered if you've calculated, Ralph, how much income you'd get if you do a per unit fee.
Actually, the scale is very important that it's calculated to be revenue neutral in the end. That's in our bylaw, and that's important. That's the Newark, Delaware model as well. That's kept it legal and has a lot of reasons to do that. So eventually, the fee system will be determined based on revenue neutrality. So it's not a way to make money from landlords, it's a way to pay for a very simple permitting system. So in fact, the cost will be minimal, and it will be shared, I think, equitably based on rental units.
Okay, Mary's next, and then Jeff.
I thought it was 50 per unit though.
That's a start, and it says then to be negotiated to become revenue neutral as a goal.
Thank you.
I just start somewhere.
There are plans to increase staff. Read that in the newspaper.
The question is, are there any plans to increase staff to implement this?
Yes.
Currently, this is not an inspection system, it's just a permitting system. So there's, in the CAN, there's no need for additional staff. It's built in. And that's true for the town system as well. There's no new inspection positions needed.
Who answers complaints then?
What's the answer? Claire, you said yes.
Who answers complaints?
So it goes through the town system. So if
So what's the money for? I mean, there has to be something.
To
Okay,
review
so
the
if we
permits.
don't know if someone's planned to be hired, then we're just gonna have to say.
right. So if new staff are needed, then they would be hired, keeping with the revenue neutrality. Right? It's pretty simple. Yeah, we just had it.
It's not simple.
What is the penalty if the landlord lies on the self-verification?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's actually if there's violations of the permitting system, it goes to a criminal situation. Not so that becomes a more intensive situation.
Okay, there was another question that I missed. Who had their hand up and I didn't get to you yet? I know there was something back here. You were. There's either one of them, but okay, go ahead. Wait, you can go ahead.
Right. So the way these work in other towns is it's a action of very last resort. Permits are almost never pulled. But ultimate threat, of course, is if you're egregiously violating the bylaws of the town, the ultimate threat or the ultimate penalty could be you lose the right to make money as a commercial renter in that town. So that is it's very rarely done. In fact, I think there's only been one case in Newark, Delaware in 30 years or something.
If the Article 29 passes, what are you going to do with 38?
Okay, the question is, if Article 29 passes, what happens with 38?
Yeah, so the coalition position is that 29 is a great permitting system. If we get a permitting system, that's great. We can withdraw 38. There are differences. There may be amendments to 29. We don't know what it will look like until the end. And we cannot withdraw 38 until town meeting anyway. So the goal for the coalition point of view is to get a permitting system. I should say we filed this petition at the deadline before the town bylaw had been drafted and it's finished. Or the very rough draft. So we had to file this thing. That's why it's there. And I think it's good that it is because we don't know what's going to come out of the town meeting.
So does the town have any zoning rights on any university land?
Does the town have any rights on university land? And our former CPA member said inspection at our planning department.
Any zoning though?
Town meeting member. No. The question is, does the town have any right to zone on university land? The answer is no. Article 34 pertains to this. And Article 34 allows a waiver on the limits of building and lot coverage, maximum floor and height, and consideration of existing buildings around and the landscapes in the surrounding neighborhood. And these all pertain to the district called RF, which is for permitted residents. And Mary's got a question as well.
It's not a question, just a comment from what Rob Crowner of the zoning subcommittee said the other night at the warrant review. I think that their intent was that this area could be built up more than the fraternity area on Olympia Drive, because if you look at the surrounding buildings here, it's a much more intense development than what you would see on Olympia Drive.
Thank you. Right. So Article 34 pertains more to this than what we saw on Olympia Drive. Mindy, what
I'm sorry, this is really a stupid question. Isn't this UMass? This property right here, isn't this UMass?
Question.
It happens to not be.
No.
There's one little lot in the middle of it.
So, any other questions? I saw another hand.
It's not
I'm just still confused about why, if this is the target, both RF zones, so the the change in density is targeted toward this, but it allows it at Olympia Drive as well?
I can answer that. Whenever there's a zone, like a fraternity zone, laws apply to it, to all the zones, just like the commercial zones in town. When you have a law about that, it applies to all of them. And so that's why they added the footnote to Article 34 that says consistent with the surrounding buildings. So you would look at these surrounding buildings and build something similar, and the same thing on Olympia Drive. You could build something similar there, but it wouldn't be as intense as this kind of development.
We're gonna not go past the library, but just know that there's CPA money. Mary, why don't you talk about CPA?
$14,000 for additional roof repairs.
Nice about.
I'm about to
Okay, 14,000 roof repairs for CPA. Mary is the vice chair of the Community Preservation Act Committee.
And on the Strong House, the Emily Dickinson dress does not cost $21,000. It only costs about $2,000 to restore. The rest of the money is for storage equipment and salary to supervise volunteers who will be storing and putting in a database all of the artifacts that are at Strong House Museum.
But you'll see that Article 24 has many, many parts, because CPA money can go for open space, historic preservation, affordable housing, and recreation. So read the warrant and you'll see all the different things. And Mary can tell you anything about all
I'm better talking one-to-one than trying to shout because my voice is not.
We're going to get off at the Unitarian Church and go inside and look at the stained glass window, and then we're going to very expeditiously get back on.
I heard what you said.
Yes, we are. If anyone doesn't want to get off, they can stay, but the rest of us are going to get off.
I'm Janice Gray. I'm the chair of the Stained Glass Committee. I've been involved with this project since about 2005. It's been a long haul. This window, when I first came, I thought, that must be the whole range of battery. No. This window was not made for this building. It was created in about 1889, 90, somewhere in there, for a Unitarian church in Roxbury, Massachusetts. And when that church merged with another one, the windows came to us because the people who had donated, the gentleman who had donated this window, Henry Bigelow Williams, wanted it to stay in the Unitarian church, not go to another denomination. So that's how we ended up with them. The story is in the pamphlet that Claire is passing out. I'm not sure what else to tell about this window.
The face. Explain the face.
Okay, well, that's in the pamphlet too. Just look at the pictures. I think there's a striking resemblance. So, the Frothinghams were an extremely prominent Unitarian family in Boston when the Unitarians were pretty much the top dogs there. They produced a number of famous ministers, including an abolitionist named Octavius Brooks Frothingham, who was clearly related to Louisa somehow, but Sarah Louisa rather. But I haven't been able to fine-tune it. She was killed in a carriage ride at the age of 20 in Roxbury, and many years later, her husband, Henry, had remarried at this point, and he donated this window. He commissioned it from the studio of Louis Comfort Tiffany for the new building in Roxbury. So,
Did you see the gap above the angel?
That's what I was going to try to point out, some of the physical problems. What happens is, in the 19th century, they thought they were being really smart to take all the silver out of the lead they were using for windows, thinking it would make it stronger, because it'd be 100% lead, right? It made it weaker. That is why windows in Europe have been around for centuries, because that lead is stronger with the silver in it. This lead tends to deteriorate after about 100 years. This window is now 123, 24 years old. It's held up pretty well, especially since it was moved at one point, but the lead is starting to disintegrate. And so you have, for example, right here, we have a hole. This is bowing out. There are things further up, especially if you go back. You can't see them right here, but if you go back, things are sagging. All these plates of glass, they're very, very heavy, are starting to sag down. And it's a little scary.
And what would the money do, and how much is the church kicking in?
Well, when we first applied for the grant, we've been kicking it to, let's see, let me look at that backwards. Okay, anyway, The grant would, I think someone said 88%, and we have the rest.
25,000 in church, 20,000.
Something like that. And it would be taken down piece by piece. I mean, the whole window will come out. It would be taken to a studio, a very well-known, respected restorer of stained glass. Each piece of glass, which also has soot in it from, 100 years of coal fires and all of that. There's layers of glass with spaces, and there's dirt in them. If you look at her wrist, you can see there's like a little shadow there. That's part of it, and also above her, the crease of her elbow, there's dirt in there. So they'd all be taken apart, cleaned, then the lead that is weakened would be replaced with stronger lead. They're going back to the Middle Ages, they're doing it right now. So it would last for several hundred years at least, probably.
Okay, and this is a request for $106,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds.
When we go out, you'll also see that it's right now in yellow plexiglass to protect it from the outside, and that, as part of the renovation of this building, would also be replaced. Wright Builders did a mock-up to see what it would look like. You see the clarity through the new exterior windows.
And it would be lit from the inside out for the public.
Yes, it is now. It is now. There's those spotlights on there on the timer, but because it is so clouded out there with that plexiglass, you don't really see much. It's murky something. And we were talking about LED lights, which are a lot brighter and more energy efficient.
And you mentioned that the face is the face of the woman who got hit by the carriage.
I wanted to mention too that the Community Preservation Act projects are considered some sort of public access. And so not only will we be backlit at night so it can be viewed better, but there will be access from within the building for residents and tourists to town who might want to stop and see it.
It was said by the Roxbury parishioners when these windows were acquired in 1925 that the face was said to resemble Sarah Louisa Rothingham's. And in the brochure, I found a photograph of Octavius, and I think there's a striking resemblance. If you look at the brow, the cheekbones, and the eyes, very similar.
Same restoration.
And so instead of stopping, I'm just going to tell you what was the site there. Maybe you all know that high rise there that we just passed. Claire, do you mind if I? Thank you very much. So Ann Whalen Apartments is Article 24D, and they are seeking $110,000 from Community Preservation Act funds to renovate cabinets, counters, sinks, and electrical upgrades to kitchens and baths. And if you have questions, Mary from the CPA can answer those. Any questions about that?
It's not.
Who owns Ann Whalen?
The question is, who owns Ann Whalen? Answer, Amherst Housing Authority. Any other questions? Yes,
I was just going to comment quick that hopefully you already saw it in your materials for that project, but it's a dual-funded project. The idea is block grant funds and CPA funds, because the Housing Authority gets very little money for maintenance, just like everybody else, and so they don't even have GFCIs by the cities. So all the stuff that you put in your house, they don't have in those apartments.
But everyone here, listener, do you want me to repeat what you said? Okay, so they need to have GFCI outlets for other upgrades. Any other questions about Ann Whalen? Oh, Ann Whalen's apartments. Okay. Okay.
We're asking for a rezoning change to business neighborhood from residential general, which will give us greater lot coverage to the new headquarters for Amherst Media.
Can you tell us about yourself, Gary?
New headquarters for what?
Precinct 9 member, grew up in Amherst.
Where is the property exactly that we're talking about? Right here?
It's right. Where exactly, Gary?
These two lots right here. These two right here.
Okay, so
that lot extends.
yes, so we are now at stop number 10. This is Article 36. Mary Streeter, watch
I just wanted to have Jerry clarify too. What happens if Amherst Media doesn't raise the money to build something there?
We will build something else.
Okay.
Where's the edge of
So the line runs right where it's been mowed, effectively. You can see the mowing line there. This is one lot 5, I think, on the list that Barry Roberts we did. Lot 6 is the other one where the beech tree here that's dying.
Is it in front of the beech tree or on the other side? The beech tree sits in the middle of it.
It's in the middle of it. The two lots. The back of the bus is basically between the two. Is the line between the two lots.
Okay.
We also own the Henry Hills Mansion, the former Boys and Girls Club. I live in this house that we're looking at right now. That's my office. I'm going to butter on 3 different sides of this property.
And Jerry, I didn't do an introduction for you, but I believe you're the former chair of the Historic District Preservation. What's the formal title of the committee?
It was a local historic district study committee that was created to instill or develop the Dickinson Historic District. So when we go to build on these front lots, whether it's residential as it is right now or a new office building, it will have to go before the local historic district, which is the Dickinson Historic District. And they are the ones who will define, what kind of a house it looks like, whether it's going to keep the same Georgian features as the other houses, for example, or whether it's going to be a big square box.
Okay. Just to give you some historical context, in 2008, town meeting was attempting to buy these two lots, the Hills lots. They were trying to request $81,000 from CPA funds to purchase these lots for a park, with such funds to be supplemented by grants and fundraising, but the purchase did not go through. And so these are the lots that would, so the petition article would rezone these from what is now general residence, which I understand would not allow the project that's being contemplated, to neighborhood business BN, which would allow the project that's being contemplated.
What is the zoning to the right?
That's not entirely accurate.
Okay, good.
Amherst Media can still build on this. They've agreed to build on this, either for the special permit or the site plan review. They can still build their headquarters here, even if the rezoning is not done.
What zoning is this? To the
Business Village Center across the street. The idea of a business neighborhood, like my office building in the former Sawicki building that Nancy Hamill owns, is that the business neighborhood lots act as a bit of a buffer to the Business Village Center, which is on the other side.
Okay, Jeff Lee.
Is the park idea or the interpretive trail or whatever they're going to do?
What? I can't hear you up here. What was that?
I was wondering if the original idea to put a trail, I think
I don't know about a trail. I mean, the idea was that the town wanted to buy the lots, and they didn't come up with enough money.
Okay.
So that's no longer an option.
Any other questions for Jerry or about this article? Okay. Okay. Thank you. We're moving on. So we're taking it right here. We're going to go past East Street School, which is the brick building set back from the road right there. One of the articles, Article 22, is to rescind a bond. Back in 2007, town meeting approved $80,000 to do upgrades to this building, make it handicap accessible. Apparently they've changed the intent of this building. That money is no longer needed. We have to rescind the authorization to borrow that money. That's what Article 22 is. And that was
That's a saving.
we're saving money.
I don't think so. That'll pass.
Tracy Boutier is a 15-year resident of Amherst. She's had 2 children go through the Amherst school system. She's part of the Echo Village Tenants Organization, and she'll speak about Article 42. Okay, go ahead.
So our article is asking for the town to acquire Building 30, Gatehouse Road, which is this side. We're on the side of the building. The entrance is here. We'll be going around so we can see the back as well. We're asking that the building be acquired to preserve affordable housing. There are 24 units in the building, 10 2-bedrooms. One of those is handicap accessible. There are 7 3-bedrooms with 2 baths each. There are 7 4-bedrooms, 2 baths each. One of those is handicap accessible. So having this as bringing it into the town's property, it definitely increases the units without increasing construction or building a new development. We don't have to worry about zoning and permitting, or zoning at least, because it's already residential. Why is this coming up? This is coming up because the building has been sold. The prior owner kept the rents affordable. There is not a deed restriction on the property to have it maintained that way. This was just the owner's belief and keeping it affordable for families who wanted to come in and needed to pay reasonable rent. The current owner that has come in is intending to raise the rents. A 3-bedroom is going up by $600, up to $1,850. A 4-bedroom is going up $1,000 from $1,400 to $2,400. 2-bedrooms are going up about a couple $100s as well. So he has also given eviction eviction notices to half the building of tenants that are all low-income Section 8 voucher holders, and that's, you know, we're just trying to save the homes. The building is very diverse in culture, in economic standing, because there are some families in the building that are not Section 8 holders, but again, they benefited from the affordable rates that the prior owner held. We have a multi-generational family in there. It's a grandma of over 70 who is raising her children as well as her grandchildren. They're a wonderful family, by the way.
Tracy, where does the money come from?
We are asking that, so the article will be amended. I know it says the $3 million was the total price. That was the purchase of this building and one of the office buildings on the other side. The amended approximate total would be about $2.5 million rather than $3 million. We're asking 15% of that to come from the town and 85% to come from other sources, federal, state, loans, grants, and it's conditioned on the 85% coming in for the town to come up with the 15%, which also could qualify under loans and grants. Currently, being that it is rented, it is bringing in income, so it can immediately start paying off any of the loans. It qualifies for the CPA funds without affecting any of the supported funding articles that are out there, or that they want to, or that they have supported by bonding. So it wouldn't take away from any other funding projects that they have planned.
Question regarding
Could I make a clarification too? There is a CPA article, it's Article 24, number 1, that is $15,000 that relates to this, but this is if this doesn't work, to give money to support affordable housing by offering people that are evicted first and last month's rent or security deposit, whatever they need to get into another place in Amherst, because currently there are no security deposits on these that they can get back to help put toward the next place to live. So that's a separate item than what Tracy Lee is talking about.
Could the landlord turn around and then say he wants more money for it?
We're going according to what the purchase price was, and again, I'm assuming with the town and the way they acquire it, would look at the assessed value and go according to the appraisal.
But still, would he actually sell at that price that would be
If the
raised?
town decides to acquire it,
Yes.
I believe it.
If he doesn't agree to it, there's language of eminent domain.
Okay.
The question is about, is the landlord willing to sell for a designated price? And part of the article is to acquire by purchase or eminent domain, which means the town could seize it and pay market value. Look to your left, those are habitat houses.
We're all looking to our right.
And the town shall fund those year by year. We gave $30,000 for solar panels on each of those houses built by Habitat with land donated by Amherst College.
There's a new one going up.
It has,
Any other questions for Tracy?
One other statement I wanted to make, we're not asking the town to buy the property. The wording is, and along with eminent domain, the town can ask a non-profit organization or the housing authority to manage the building. So it will not be the town, the select board, or anything else.
Look to your left. This is land on 17th Street that the town is, 125,000 CPA funds is being requested. This land right here. And this land is valued at over $500,000. And there's been a coalition of groups, Kestrel Trust is assisting, and the rail trail is donating $100,000. There's a private landowner that would be buying 2 of the lots up where the house is kind of falling down up here, and so would get about $200,000 from that. And the community is fundraising $75,000, and we're getting close to that amount. Anyway, so this land right here is the land that would be, it's 7.4 acres, but about 5 of it would be preserved with this proposal.
So there's going to be development on this property?
There's 2 of the lots which are in the location of where the house is falling down. I'll point it out when we go by. Would have to be sold to come up with a purchase price, which is $501,000. The whole land is appraised actually at more than $800,000. So the town, to get the best vistas, would be putting in $125. But as I said, the whole property was appraised at over $800. And I'll show you the lots that would be sold. Okay.
What are they going to do with the land?
So the two lots that will be sold, Kestrel is talking to different potential buyers. The person who had been interested in buying and still is a woman who wants to buy have lot 6, which is right behind the falling down house, and build a retirement home there. Not a retirement home as in like lots of people living in a retirement home, but her house for when she retires. And she wanted to build a moderate-sized house.
And we would not see that house? Is that it?
So it would be right behind where the falling down house is. So the lot is the falling down house.
You're gonna build in the woods?
I can't tell you that we wouldn't see it, but I can tell you that the goal is to preserve these long-range vistas, which have been part of the open space plan for many years. And there's also a certified vernal pool that runs along the rail trail. Right here is the rail trail. This is part of why the Department of Conservation and Recreation is contributing $100,000 towards this project to preserve the boundary of that rail trail. This is actually part of completing a greenway that runs for miles in each direction, flanking the rail trail with green space.
Of how many feet?
I'll listen first and then I'll get right to you.
Just as you provided context over on the Darrow property and Amherst Media, if you could provide a little context, Carol, as to where those two houses would be likely lots would be versus the previous proposal by the previous owner that was completely controversial as that land.
Yes, and full disclosure, I've been very active with this land for 8 years, and I've been part of the community group, the South Amherst Conservation Association, that has filed numerous appeals and gone through litigation for a number of years about this very land. What happened in this past year is that the developer, all the appeals were completed, but the developer was foreclosed on. He stopped paying his mortgage and the bank became the owner. And then we started working with Kestrel and the rail trail and the town to try to put together a coalition to buy from the bank, because that's what's happening now. But the location, actually, even back in 2004, we tried to rezone this land. It didn't pass in town meeting. The location had been, the prior developer wanted to build 25 luxury condos originally with double car garages and 2 additional parking spaces and a loop road that would take up the entire field.
Which did pass town meeting.
It turned out that wasn't legal. He was only allowed to do 17 luxury condos. He sued the town to try to do the 25. He lost. Land court said, no, you can only do 17. But so that was the plan. It would have developed the entire 7.4 acres. Okay,
Which passed town meeting. That vote passed. That development.
It was never voted before town meeting. That went to the appropriate boards, Conservation Commission and Planning Board and the Zoning Board. It was never before town meeting. Any other questions?
I remember it on the floor.
It was before town meeting to try to rezone, and that did not pass.
And that failed.
It's now zoned.
Thank you.
Still zoned PUR.
It's still zoned PUR.
Development, which is a mistake.
And we all wear many hats. Barbara was on the Zoning Board of Appeals Committee. It took
3 years that it took just to get a permit out on that.
Yes. So this has been going on for 8 years, and now the community has fundraised over $60,000 towards the purchase. If you want to make
so the previous owner was sued. The previous owner was sued so that he could no longer afford to pay the taxes on it. The bank has taken over, and now the town is going to buy it.
So the previous owner had numerous different projects that did not pass muster in the Department of Environmental Protection. His water plan. Actually, if I could just answer your question. So he had to revise his plan numerous times because the DEP required it. When all the appeals were over, he chose not to go forward, and so about a half year passed, and then we learned that it was up for auction. So up here, right here, this is the Brunel property. Mary, do you want to speak about that for a moment?
There are 2 phases. This came before town meeting last fall when they were hoping to get a grant, and they weren't able to get a grant for half the cost. So the town has come back, the Conservation Commission has come back asking for $156,000 in CPA money, and it would just purchase the part in the back where there's some wetlands and there's some trees, and then they want to come another time for phase 2, which is closer to the front part here. I think that these lots, according to our rep from the Concom, said that these lots are currently on the market, the ones that are abutting the road. So there would be, I think there's a map coming around that shows kind of like a flag lot that you would have to go back, and then I guess there's good bird watching or something back there.
So the lots that we are buying, I don't know if they're even visible, but they're tucked back. There's a little bit
I think
of
it's where the trees are. I can't tell for sure though.
There's a little bit of frontage down here, and then it's kind of the wood lots. And the lots here in front were maybe a phase 2, but it sounds like they're yeah, no problem.
I think that's one of these things. Is this a wetland that cannot be built on now?
Okay, question, quiet please. The question is, are these wetlands that can't be built on?
I asked Dave Zomick that question. He said he thinks 2 house lots could go back there.
Okay, so in other words, some of it might be wetlands, but there are two lots that are.
As an aside, though, I think the water table on Pot One is rather high. My husband and I looked at a piece of land here a number of years ago, and we decided not to build because of how high the water table was.
Claire has a point.
I'm just asking, do you know where this lot stood on their priority list for conservation protection?
As a committee, we didn't get any feedback on why the grant wasn't awarded. Oh, on the Concom?
Yes, but locally.
They said it was their #1 priority,
Okay.
but they're heavily influenced by Dave, who has worked with his family for a number of years.
Well, they have a plan, an open space and recreation plan that says what the priorities are.
Yes.
It isn't like Dave just told them it was.
Oh, okay, but he sort of kept imploring our committee about, I've been working with these people, stringing them along. And,
Okay, Barbara, please.
So the front, I wasn't sure if I heard, the front part of this parcel that we bought last year, right? Is that what
What we approved at town meeting was to purchase phase 1, it partially funded by a grant, but the state didn't award the grant, and for the reason, I don't know what the reason was behind that, but so then the town, through the Conservation Commission, decided to bring it back again and just purchase the whole thing without a grant.
And so the cost is $156,000 in CPA funds, and it's possible that what we're buying now will be a phase 1, and the phase 2 might be the frontage lots, but it sounds like.
But that's not a commitment. They would have to go through the whole application process for phase 2.
This may be a stupid question. Why do we want them? There's already a home, a new home. There's a high power line. What is the particular value to the town?
So the question is, why do we want them? Would anyone like to address
Why does the town of
anyone here
Amherst?
from the Conservation Commission that can speak to that?
Yes. Janet?
I read somewhere that it's part of the Greenway that extends the Robert Frost Trail.
Janet says it might extend the Robert Frost Trail.
But there's already they're already privately owned.
There's lots of housing next to conservation land. That is a reality. But Concom and I mean, they review land that should be preserved, and that has been on the list. It's part of the Greenway. I think they'll speak to us at town meeting. The purpose is to conserve? Yes, to conserve open space.
Conservation with a conservation restriction.
Barbara has a comment. Well, I just wanted to comment about the eminent domain, because Article 43 also has eminent domain